I want to talk about California. I live in a red mountain estate. There's all the snow, Montana, but the same thing applies to Utah, Idaho, Wyoming. It's that people from California coming into your state are to blame for all your problems. This has always bothered me. Now, let me start this by saying I am biased. I did come here from California,
where I lived for less than a year and don't really feel like that place characterizes me in any way.
but let me at least explain why this bothers me. I think there's two big reasons that people get mad at people from California for coming to their states. The first is change, and the second is cost of living. When it comes to change, you can see the other rant I have on change, but change is inevitable, right? And change is not always necessarily a bad thing, so you can choose to be upset by it or you can choose to adapt to it. I saw this ad for Republican Senator Tim Sheehy in Montana. It was these people sitting around a campfire up in the mountains. But this one lady goes, I am just so afraid that my kids are going to grow up in a world that looks vastly different than the one I grew up in. And I was just sitting there watching it like, what the fuck are you talking? Of course you're going to grow up in a world that looks different. We have supercomputers in our pockets by the standards of my childhood, and they're connected to everyone else's supercomputers throughout the entire world. We've advanced. We've learned more about the world around us and above us and below us and within us and the universe and technology. The amount of data I can store on a flash drive now used to take whole buildings. This is not a bad thing. I would be livid if we were still using VHS tapes and doing things analog when we could be doing things digitally, which is much more efficient. If no one came into one of these Red Mountain estates from out of state in the last 30 years, this place would still look vastly different, right? Because you can't stop information from coming over your borders. If you're referring to the way that I vote, I'm going to hold beliefs and vote according to those beliefs that's going to protect you, person who's mad at me for coming here from California, and me from the rich people who exploit us and the politicians that they can buy in this country. I'm going to vote against that, and in such a way that protects us. I'm going to vote against the conservative politicians who would burn these beautiful mountains and forests around us down and or wash it away in a flood if it meant making a quick buck. Unapologetically, I'm going to vote for those things.
And I want to add, I understand how hard it is to fall in love with something and then watch it change in front of your eyes into something that you don't love or something that you don't know. I hear all the time about how in Montana, how people are like, everyone's so different now. People aren't as nice. People are a bit more pretentious. My policy is don't be an asshole. I have that policy regardless of where I'm living. I try to help out my neighbors. When I see someone who needs help, I try to help them. I try to make my community a better place by helping out the people around me and by listening to the people around me and by supporting small local businesses. And while I know that most people aren't mad at me as like an individual, they're more mad at the rich people who come in and buy up all the properties just to rent them out when they don't even live in the state. I'm mad at those people too. But I still stand by the notion that I think that things would change because of new people and new ideologies, yes, but also because of capitalism. I mean, people complain about all the restaurants are so expensive, they're all so pretentious now. You're talking about gentrification, and yeah, that happens when you have capitalism that prioritizes profit first over the small town feel of a place.
Now, the second is cost of living. Just so I understand, you're mad that supply and demand dictates the cost of a necessity like housing or like food. And then if you can't afford those things, it's not like you just get a shittier version of it. You don't get those things. It's homelessness. It's starvation. I'm against that too. And conservatives are actively fighting against giving anyone free food or anyone free housing to guarantee that they have their necessities met. I moved to Montana sight unseen, basically. I mean, I visited, but I don't know anyone here. I didn't have any connections here. I moved here because I heard about it, and it's a beautiful place to live. And frankly, it's the best place I've ever lived and the happiest I've ever been just by living in this place. And you're essentially telling me and everyone else who comes here from out of state that they don't deserve it because it has to come at the cost of your own necessities being met. And I'm here to tell you that that's only because our politicians have totally abandoned you. So get mad at them, direct your anger in the right direction, right? Instead of the culture war where you get mad at your neighbor like me who's trying to rent a place and just dreaming of owning a house someday, get mad at your politicians who have completely abandoned your well-being for the well-being of the rich people and the large corporations and the large landowners who can buy them. Policymakers can set minimums on wages to keep up with the cost of living in an area. Policymakers can control rent increases year over year and can control the prices of rent and can set taxes and refunds on buying your first home as opposed to buying your 5th and 10th and 20th home. Policymakers can actually do something about it. Hold them accountable to us, right? Instead of the rich people who can buy them.
And I think the thing that bothers me the most about this is they want you to get mad at me because it lets them off the hook. And when they support rich people and big companies and large landowners' needs, instead of ours, they make off with all of our money. And when they make off with all of our money, you and I struggle to afford homes. They want you to think that there just isn't enough. There's not enough resources. There's not enough space. They are manufacturing this scarcity to pit us against each other when who we really should be getting mad at is them.